I'm Linda Harrison, and you're listening to A Shark's Perspective.
Welcome back, and thank you for joining A Shark's Perspective. I am Kenneth Kinney, but friends call me Shark. I'm a keynote speaker, strategist, a shark diver, host of this show, and your chief shark officer. It's been a minute, but we are diving into data again today, particularly third-party data. Successful marketing campaigns very often start with targeting the right audience, and that's whether you're a global CPG brand or even just the solopreneur. But understanding the quality of data and how that is assembled, its fluidity, considerations with data privacy rights, changing laws, ethics, and even knowledge by the marketers using that data can be difficult for people to understand, especially when supplementing a campaign from a third-party data supplier, even if you work with one that's historically well-known and respected. So when building a large campaign, are you a data guru? Linda Harrison is the Senior Director of Data Strategy, also known as DataGuru, at Acxiom Corporation. And on this episode, we'll discuss what marketers are doing right and wrong with third-party data, building out segments, scaling, the cookieless world, the art and science of data, first, second, and third-party data, finding the right people for the right campaign, the fluidity of data, personas, cross-channel campaigns, where and how marketers shop for data, being a good steward, how awesome it was or not to work with me in the past, data gurus, love gurus, and Tony Robbins, thermal baths in natural hot springs, racetracks, tigers, zebras, gators, and Arkan sharks, and a lot more. So let's tune into the Data Guru with, you guessed it, the Shark Guru, on this episode of A Shark's Perspective. Linda, welcome to A Shark's Perspective. Would you please give us a little background on your career to date?
Yeah, so I'm Linda Harrison. I work at Acxiom. I'm a Senior Director of Digital Strategy, and I'm based in Arkansas, the hotbed of digital marketing. I've been at Acxiom a really long time. I won't say how long, but what I'd like to say is that I've reinvented myself over time, right? I answered an ad that an agency put out that said, I have two brains, so that I like analytical work and creative work. And that's the joy of DataGuru. So what we do is we help recommend, deploy, and strategize with our clients about third-party data. So what's working in the marketplace, what type of audiences would resonate with their clientele. So it's an art and a science and a lot of fun.
I know, this is going to be incredibly difficult for me because I'm so young, but could you let us know what a newspaper is? Is that something we find on Twitter for trending news?
Yes, usatoday.com.
Okay.
WSJ.com.
There you go.
Back when companies actually put ads in the newspaper,
God, I miss
people
those
would
days.
answer them.
Yeah.
I know.
Well, you've been at Acxiom for over 2 decades, right?
Yes, I'll admit to that.
Okay. So would it be fair to say that during all that time, that the most important, impactful years of your career were the ones where we worked together?
Absolutely.
Good answer. Good answer.
Couldn't be any better.
Yeah. I'm always interested in this conversation, and I love having the Data Guru on the show. What are marketers doing right with third-party data today? And what are they doing wrong? And I'm really, what I'm trying to ask is, where's the level of knowledge today that most marketers and advertisers have with leveraging third-party data and building out those segments and scaling them up? And I say that in context to all the changes that happened in 2021 with the announcement of us moving towards a cookieless world.
Yeah. So, third-party data is going to survive. In my mind, it's much ado about nothing, which sounds terrible, but we'll always find a way to inform the audience selection, right? Acxiom still has a great way, as many partners do, to get their data into the ecosphere, right? May not be cookies. It might be ramp IDs. It might be UUIDs. It might be UID 2.0, whatever it is, it's going to happen, right? What we need to focus on is finding the right people for the right campaign. So where do you want to be in the sales funnel, in the marketing journey for your clientele, And then how are you going to measure results? That's what really matters, right? So when I understand a campaign, what are they going to measure? So what KPIs do they have? Are you looking for actions? Are you looking for awareness? What are you looking for? And then what type of data matches that, right? So, the further you go down in the funnel, the more niche the data is, the fewer scale you have, and the more it's going to cost you. So many times you want to do more than one thing at the same time. So that's why I typically recommend multiple things, right? So it might be, let's just get awareness. Let's also try and get them in the store, right? And then it's your job to help them buy. You need to have a great offer. It's more than just the audience, it's the creative, it's the placement. My job is to really focus on the audience selection.
Or that cross-pollination across channels, whether it's email, addressable TV, banner ads, whatever it is.
Right. And that's the beauty of how things are changing over time, is that you can help find that same audience across devices, across platforms. Everywhere I go, I'm going to see that same great ad. And hopefully it's more than just static banner ads, that you're including social, video, things that really resonate with your customers.
Well, I was a big fan of Acxiom, obviously, when I worked there as well. And so I, wore the jersey proudly. But it was something that I inherently believed about data when I went there. And then we'd have conversations with a lot of agencies and a lot of the direct brands who were doing the advertising. But I still find that a lot of conversations that I have even today, there's still a strong lack of knowledge about what's possible with targeting. Am I unfair in that belief, or is that sort of the same thing, maybe more nicely said by you? Do you sort of see the same thing?
Yeah, there's a lot of that going around still. There's so much data out there that they don't even know where to start, right? And that's why you need someone to help curate it, right? So are you going really broad? Let's use demographic data. Let's find age, gender, presence of children type things, right? So if you're just doing awareness, you should know who's going to buy your product or be interested in your service. AARP is going to have a different audience than Pampers baby diapers, right? They're just different groups. So they're going to buy those two things. But then you might need to roll into more detailed information to find who has an affinity for your brand or your competitor, right? So you want to think about those things as you start to go through the customer journey and into the sales funnel, right? You want to have more affinities for different things, or maybe a qualifier, right? So I had a client that was trying to do some lawn care products and services. Well, if I'm renting that home, I don't really care about the weeds in my yard. It's not my problem, right? But if I own the home, hopefully I care a little bit more, or my neighbors care, right? So being a homeowner, and what kind of yard is it? Am I in a high-rise apartment building? Again, I don't care because the super does it. So you have to think through those types of things to help qualify the audience into people that are going to resonate with the product. And then as we go further down, we want to start thinking about them taking action, right? So are they qualified to take action? I might be super interested in Lamborghinis, right? I might watch and complete videos all day long about Lamborghinis because I think they're awesome. But do I have the capacity to purchase one? Well, I might need to get a raise before that happens, right? So we got to think about those capacity, location type things as well. So it's kind of the combination of things that helps bring the audience to life to help really make what we're recommending work in the marketplace. Again, that art and science, right? That's what I do.
Exactly. So you touched on several things I want to come back to with respect to privacy. What would a respected data provider like Acxiom do to market to people, or rather not to market to people, maybe the better question, that a brand or agency may not consider? And I don't mean that a brand or agency would intentionally do the wrong thing, but with a respected data provider that treats that data like it's near and dear, like it's a child, with the sole focus of respecting the right thing to do.
Right. So Acxiom puts in a lot of privacy rules from the get-go, right? So what's considered sensitive today and what's considered sensitive in the future are going to be different, right? We're at a little bit more of a privacy influx than we've been in the past, where there's some state laws going to go into effect about targeting based on ethnicity. For example, there's also things like based on your sexual orientation. That's just something that can be very sensitive. Some people can be fired based on their health information if you're a smoker, based on your sexual orientation. So we don't want to offer campaigns based on that type of data. We don't even carry that type of data in many cases because it can be toxic, right? We don't want to lead someone to go down the wrong path. So what's sensitive now, what's sensitive in the future can be very different. But there's things just like alcohol, right? Crazily enough, I had to remind the client, hey, I'm only going to give you people age 21 plus because US, it's age 21 plus. So same thing with casino gambling. They might want to use 18 plus in some states, right? Because Oklahoma, for example, is 18, but Arkansas is 21. So we're going to layer on a nationwide to help prevent boo-boos, because if I make it 18 plus and then they just open up that audience to more states that are 21 plus, they're going to get in the gotcha. And we don't want to have that happen. So we try and help advocate for doing the right things and prevent them from doing things that are just going to get them in trouble.
So Acxiom's a third-party data supplier. You work with a lot of partners that inform that data as well. How should a marketer then really look at data, whether it's first party, second party, third party? A lot of advertisers may have a large first party data file, and a lot of marketers think that's all you need. However, a lot of them don't realize that you and I used to run through all the time is that data is fluid and things change. And it's what's static today is, 10% change by tomorrow. But some data suppliers, for example, have more credit card data. Some have a broader spectrum of inputs. Some have this, that, or the other. It's more paprika and more, time and whatever else. How do you sort of look at the type of data that people need to consider and all the things that go into what makes a good data set?
Right. So you need the depth and breadth of data, right? So when we're looking at a data source, we're looking at the niche of the provider. What do they do really, really well, right? So somebody who has exact date of birth, I'm going to use that over somebody who gives me a 5-year age range, right? So that way, when somebody has a birthday, I know about it, right? Because I have that exact date of birth. I also look at how broad is their data? Do they have data across the whole US, or do they only have information in New York City? Well, New York City is a key care about. It's not the end all be all, especially for people on the other side of the country, right? So I want to have nationally representative information. I want to have data that is balanced towards accuracy, right? I can't get, for example, income to be exactly right. A provider might say they have the best income data in the world, but typically, if you have the best data in the world, it's either too expensive in the marketplace or there's not enough scale, right? I have exactly Kenneth Kinney's information, and that's the only person I know about in the whole US. Not scalable. So I want to balance across those things, and you want frequent updates so that whether it's your first party data, second party data, zero party data, if you want to admit that's a type, and third party data. You want to make sure that it's frequently updated. It's got the depth, breadth, scale, and accuracy that you can live with at a reasonable price, right? So you want to have all the different things that you can understand about your first party data to then find lookalikes amongst third party data.
Well, and the reason I ask this, I get such mixed answers from people that either I'm speaking to directly or they have spoken with somebody else. There are thousands and thousands of third-party data suppliers. A lot of them are junk. And a lot of them, they'll take a list from a respected partner and they'll append it with something of their own information, and then it becomes their own big list. And if you were to ask a lot of marketers today who don't know the data market, for example, they don't know where to really shop. Very interesting to see where people go to find data anymore, because there's just so many suppliers and not all data is the same.
But on the same part, data is becoming a little bit commoditized, right? That it's ubiquitous. So what you want to do is find a data provider that can give you the majority of what you need. And then you can fill in with someone else if there's something bespoke that you really need, or they can help you find it. What can happen is that you can find a data provider that you don't know if they've got all of the different terms and qualifications done. Is it permissioned for this marketing purpose? Has the consumer the ability to opt out? Do you have all those checklist things done on the front end? And that's why working with a known entity makes sense, whether it's Acxiom or someone else, right? You want to make sure that they're doing all of the things that are going to make data quality out there for you, so that you're not going to turn around and find out that I bought data that consumers are not opting out from, that California privacy permissions are not taken into account. All those things that can just, at the end of the day, get you in a lot of trouble.
One of the things I think that's interesting today is that generationally, people treat data much different. There's the differentiation we have across states and across continents now with what Europe does versus what we do. But it also is a certain age range that's older and a certain age range that's younger. Some like to be tracked. A lot of people like me don't want to be tracked. We want to be off the digital grid, with our aluminum foil hats sometimes, but knowing the capabilities of how we can target, it's completely understandable. How much of data now is shaped generationally by what you're seeing a lot of younger people accept with all tracking?
That's true. The younger individuals tend to share data more freely, right? But sometimes it's still very shallow information that's provided. You might be willing to share what you're watching, what you're liking, things like that. But then the true sense of self is still, you're not going to get that self-reported as much. So you have to model information based on what we do know to fill in the blanks, and be willing to try different things, right? That there's not a silver bullet to capture Gen Z, and not all Gen Z is the same. There's a person on my marketing team that wrote an article that said that she's a geriatric Gen Z at age 26.
Yeah.
Right.
Bless her.
I know, poor thing. She's just on the edge of the TikTok, as I like to call it. You have to use the in front of it when you're really old. Yeah. When you're really old.
So mostly what we're talking about today is mostly about direct to consumer. What's the recommendation you have for the B2B world when they look at leveraging a third-party data provider?
So Dun & Bradstreet is the 800-pound gorilla in the room, right? They're hard to beat. They've been doing it over 200 years. 200. So they certainly know B2B. What Acxiom has done, and I'm not just here to talk about Acxiom, but it's an interesting way we've taken their data set, is to find the individuals that work at those companies. So now you can target me across my home and my work life. So you can know that I work for a large company that has sales volume of over X, or number of employees over Y, but also that I ride a motorcycle, that I like to cook, that I drive a Lincoln, whatever it is, so that you can target the whole person across my life, right? So now I can find HR professionals that like to golf to take them out to a campaign, right? That I'm not going to talk to the people that hate golfing because, it's my golf event that I'm trying to get them to come to and to sponsor, et cetera.
Great point. So describe, if you will, sort of in your own little Linda DataGuru perfect world, what is an optimal campaign for you, and how would that campaign be built across different channels?
An optimal campaign, a campaign that the agency or client knows who they're trying to reach, right? They understand the persona. They can give me some good ideas on where to get started. And then they're willing to take a risk on some additional things, a little lanyap I like to throw in, as they'd say in New Orleans, of something a little extra, right? Maybe you came to me with all these great MRI type statements. I want my technology to say, wow, right? Your agency told you that, but finding those people is difficult, except for a tie back to MRI, right? So I can help you with those parts, but then let me go out on a limb and test something new that I've provided. Maybe it's some purchase data I have. Maybe it's some attitudinal. Maybe it's just layering on some additional demographics or in market to see how well this audience performs. Do some A/B split testing. Resonate, iterate. Let me know how it's working and let's change it and refine it, right? Data doesn't stay in a vacuum. Your campaign shouldn't either. So let's keep iterating and doing a champion challenger type approach.
So let's talk a little bit about channels. When you look at all the digital channels we have, with the way TV's going, with connected TV, with email, which you mentioned earlier, how do you sort of look at doing a cross-channel view with leveraging third-party data?
Well, it's gotten so much easier because PII is ubiquitous in a way, right? We can take PII and transform it into anonymous information and find the same audience, email, direct mail. So many times we're doing a pre-approved offer where now we're doing email first because it's a much lower cost per engagement, right? And then the people that we can't reach via email, we're doing direct mail to them. Then we're also augmenting the campaign by having awareness campaigns at the same time, maybe on connected TV, in display, et cetera, so that we're trying to make sure that it resonates and hits the eyeballs of the right people, because most of us are doing cross-channel all day long. Do you watch TV and TV alone, or do you have your phone out or a tablet or something else that you're multitasking with?
Oh, absolutely.
My husband hates it when I multitask. I'm like, no, I'm watching. He says, you are not watching. I said, I'm watching enough of that because it's slow going and I'm doing something fun at the same time. So cross-channel is where it's at.
Personas. You brought up something about personas, and I have this theory that almost all personas look generically the same. A lot of agencies shape it to where they have some pretty common familiar buckets to where they bucket people into. And then you think of the capabilities of large data providers like an Acxiom, Experian, Epsilon, any of those. You can go so much deeper with how you can segment people out. How should people explore going beyond their basic personas with better targeting?
You're right. Many of the personas are genericized. It's Sydney. Oh, great. Here's Sydney again. Oh, and his buddy Jake. Awesome. Right. So you're getting that type of persona information that has so many qualifiers. There's really only one of those people in the whole US that meets every criteria. First of all, 3 out of 20 might be a great audience scale, but what they can do is actually take their current first party file of the people that have the products or services that made you say it was going to be Jake in the first place. And let's see what demographic, psychographic, purchase behavior, in-market tendencies already are there for that. We call it a data portrait analysis, where we're just running some metrics, right? Building an index of how frequently is this seen for your first party file versus a national average. So trying to see, is this unique? Yeah, I'll get some head nodding in the room. AARP already knows that their file tends to be 50 plus, because that's a qualifier to get the product, right? But they may not know some of the wealth criteria or number of cars, or maybe how many of them are raising grandchildren. They might then have a little head scratcher that says, oh, we didn't know that that was so prevalent in our audience. Maybe we need to open up another product line for grandparents that are raising their grandchildren so that some of the things that you care about, because now you've got a teen driver. We never knew we had to have stuff for teen drivers. My file average age is 70 years old, right? So they can open up new products and services now that they have new information.
Yeah, that's such a great point. What should people understand third party not being able to do?
We can't do everything. You have to put in some of the hard work yourself, right?
Amen to that.
So I have some direct to consumer brands that really have high expectations that I'm going to have purchase behavior of their exact make model of product. Like, I just don't have that. CPG data can get fairly brand specific, right? If it's loyalty data, but that then gets modeled out. I don't know exactly who bought Kellogg's Corn Flakes in the small size yellow box blue lid. Nobody knows that, right? You know how many bought it overall, but you don't know who specifically bought it. So we have to live with a little bit of a broader lens and say, okay, who likes cereal? Who likes cornflakes? Let's go with that. And then we can iterate from there.
And to your point earlier, you still got to do the work. You can have the most precision targeting in the world, but if the offer's written badly, if the experience is horrible on the website, there's so many contributing factors that the targeting you can improve. And it's actually pretty easy. As you said earlier, it's pretty easy to do this now, but you still got to do the work on the back end. It's not an end-all solution. So Linda, I asked this of all my guests. You're in Hot Springs. There's no sharks that I know of in the lakes near Hot Springs, but
luckily, they keep saying there's gators here.
Well, there was a movie called Ark and Shark that was horrible, one of those dumb shark movies. But I asked this of all of my guests on the show. What is your favorite kind of shark and why?
My favorite kind of shark, a tiger shark, because it sounds even more ferocious. You're taking the cross-pollination of tigers and sharks.
I love it. Of course, they got a zebra shark too. That's another one. So Linda,
that doesn't sound as
they're
vicious though,
puppy
does it?
Dogs. No, great whites.
Sounds like they would just eat grass.
Exactly.
Seagrass.
Exactly. All right. Well, Linda, it's a special time of the show. Are you ready for the 5 most interesting and important questions that you're going to be asked today?
I'm ready.
All right. Number 1. You are the data guru, but let's talk about movies with gurus. Would you rather watch The Love Guru starring Mike Myers about the born in America and raised in an Indian ashram man who returns to his native land to seek fortune as a spiritual self-help expert, or the Netflix documentary, I Am Not Your Guru, the behind-the-scenes look at Tony Robbins' mammoth seminar Date with Destiny?
Love Guru for sure.
Oh, that was a horrible movie. I couldn't finish it, but I highly recommend the Tony Robbins show. All right. Number 2, you have friends visiting Hot Springs, Arkansas, where you live. They want an experience that is authentically Hot Springs-ish. You're taking them to either a day of racing at Oaklawn, the beautiful horse racing track and casino resort, or a day enjoying the world-renowned thermal baths and the natural hot springs that help Hot Springs get its name.
I take him to the racetrack.
Why so?
There's excitement, there's horses, there's gambling, drinking.
Yeah, I would agree. I was curious why, but plus I think when I texted you last week about this, you were at the casino anyway. So it was a softball question.
And I won a jackpot. So.
Oh, nice. Number 3. All right. So we talked a little bit about cookies. They're going away, but not the ones that really matter. So number 3 is chocolate chip or macadamia nut cookies.
Chocolate chip.
Okay. Do you know why cookie? Macadamia nut. But do you know why cookie campaigns were always my favorite? Because they're very delicious. But I'm bummed. Not very good. I know. Number 4, Google or Apple?
For what?
Targeting in campaigns.
Oh, Google.
All right. Number
It's
five.
everywhere. It's
It's
everywhere.
Oh, that's true. Number 5, and the most important question that you're going to be asked today is biscuits or cornbread?
Cornbread.
Why so?
It's that sweet and buttery. It's just delicious.
Okay. All right. So, Linda, where can people find out more about you, find out more about the Data Guru, keep up with what you're doing and more?
You can find me on LinkedIn, of course. I think I'm Linda Harrison, Data Guru. And then email linda.harrison@acxiom.com.
And what's the Data Guru podcast?
It's out there and around the world. It's Data Guru podcast, I believe.
Awesome.
Acxiom.
Linda, thank you so much for being with us today on A Shark's Perspective.
Thanks for having me. It was fun.
So there was my conversation with Linda Harrison, the Senior Director of Data Strategy, A.K.A. Data Guru at Acxiom Corporation. Let's take a look at 3 key takeaways from my conversation with her. First, Linda brings up an amazing reminder. You can target with incredible precision and insights today, and I've worked with Linda on many a campaign doing so. It can make a major impact on the success of a campaign. However, it's just one component, albeit a very important one. But many lean on it as a crutch or believe it's the only answer as to why your campaign did or did not succeed. You could apply this example with third-party data in a $1 million campaign, or a one-on-one message you send to someone in an individual email, for example. You may reach the right person, but it's still on you to button up the offer, the landing page, the messaging, the ads, the customer experience, the personalization and automation. You know all this. I know that you do, but there's so many other factors to what works and what does not. Nevertheless, start with targeting the right audience with the right context for the right reasons. And she cites that an optimal campaign for her is one where an agency or brand really knows who they want to target. Easier said than always done, but do that and then start testing something new, A/B split test, and refine it again and again and again. Keep iterating. Second, I love a reminder, we all know there's a ton of data out there, but honestly, most people don't have nearly enough knowledge and how to assemble it. Me personally, that's why I recommend companies who have a solid breadth and depth of sources that inform that data to create a quality data set. There are thousands and thousands of companies who sell data in lists. And be careful, they're not all the same. Data is incredibly fluid. No one's data is perfect, including Acxiom, but there are a lot of companies whose data is, well, chocolate ice cream cones. For marketers who want to grow and scale, she reminds us that we've got to start with the targeting. Having that understanding with not just your first-party list, but additional volume from a quality, larger third-party data set is important to campaign success. And it's the mix of the right factors, often going beyond ordinary targeting and segments. She brings up a great point, and I'll quote, "It's kind of the combination of things that helps bring the audience to life to help really make what we're recommending work in the marketplace. It's that art and science we discussed." Reputable data companies help with that knowledge, and there are several I can recommend. Data gurus like Linda, though, make that experience even better. Third, why is an in-depth knowledge into the data you use a worthwhile spend of your time? Because you want to build trust with your customers and their data, and considering how much data we exchange today, it's imperative to be good stewards of customer data. So whoever you get your data from or exchange it with, respect where that data came from and where the rules and ethics come into data privacy. Got a question? Send me an email to kenneth@asharksperspective.com. Thank you again for the privilege of your time, and I'm so thankful to everyone who listens. Please consider writing a review and letting me know your thoughts on the show. Data is fluid, and guess what? So are the waters where I'm going to be diving next. Join us on the next episode of A Shark's Perspective.